I remember the exact second it happened, like time folded itself around that moment. It wasn't dramatic. No music swelled, no one gasped. But inside me, everything changed. He took my hand, and I let him. We were sitting on the back porch of a lake house neither of us owned, both of us invited by people who probably hadn't noticed we'd slipped away from the noise. It was one of those late summer nights where the air feels like it's holding its breath warm, thick with something unspoken. We hadn't said much in the last 10 minutes, just the occasional glance, the kind that lingers half a second too long, and then you look away like you're afraid the truth might spill out if you don't. I was holding my glass with both hands, trying to seem relaxed, even though my body was humming like a wire pulled too tight. He was close. Not too close, but enough that I could feel the heat coming off his skin, his thigh just there. Inches. Temptation. I told myself I should stand, go back inside, laugh with people who didn't make my heart clench the way he did. But I didn't move. I just kept staring out at the dark lake, pretending to be lost in thought. He shifted beside me just slightly. I could feel his gaze on me now, not heavy, not demanding, just present, like gravity. And then slowly, so slowly I almost didn't notice it at first, his fingers brushed against mine. I didn't breathe. The touch wasn't accidental. There was too much quiet in it, too much choice. He didn't grab. He didn't hold. He just waited, his fingers beside mine asking. And somewhere deep in my chest something answered. I didn't look at him. I couldn't. I just let my fingers fall open, just enough that his could slip between them. They did. And I didn't pull away. I don't know how long we stayed like that. His fingers curled into mine like they'd always belonged there. Like my hand had just been waiting to be filled. The silence between us wasn't awkward anymore. It was alive. Electric. Every second stretched out, heavy with things we weren't saying. I still didn't look at him. Because if I did, I don't know what would have happened. And maybe that's what I wanted, for it to stay suspended like that, right on the edge of something. Beautiful. Dangerous. I felt his thumb brush against the side of my hand, so softly it made my whole body tighten. Like he was testing if I'd flinch, if I'd come to my senses. I didn't. Instead, I leaned the tiniest bit closer. Not enough to be obvious. Just enough that I could feel the warmth of his shoulder near mine. He exhaled. I heard it. Low, slow. And something about that sound made my heart skip. Like it was an answer. And I realized this wasn't new. Not really. This tension, it had been building for months. Ever since that first night we met, when our eyes locked across a crowded bar and he smiled like he already knew me. The jokes that felt too personal. The way he remembered little things I said when no one else seemed to be listening. He was never inappropriate. Never crossed a line. Until tonight. And even now, with his hand wrapped in mine, he wasn't moving. He was still. Calm. Like he was giving me all the room in the world to choose. I should have let go. That's what I keep thinking when I replay it in my mind. I could have pulled my hand back. Laughed it off. Walked away with a clear conscience and an untouched heart. But I didn't. Because for the first time in a long time I wanted to be touched. Not for attention. Not for show. Just to be seen. Quietly. Completely. And somehow he saw me. All of me. Even the parts one didn't say out loud. The breeze had cooled, brushing across my skin like a warning. But I didn't move. Neither of us spoke. Words felt too loud for what was happening between us. Too clumsy. Everything that needed to be said was already hanging in the air. Thick with breath and silence. His hand stayed in mine, but now there was a pulse in it. A rhythm. I could feel it in his fingertips, steady and real. Matching the echo thudding low in my chest. And that's when I finally looked at him. Slowly. Like peeling away something fragile. His eyes were already waiting for mine. There was no smirk, no bravado, just something achingly honest. His gaze searched mine like he was afraid of what he'd find but couldn't help needing to know. I didn't look away. His thumb moved again. This time over the inside of my wrist. A quiet circle that sent a ripple through my whole body. It was nothing. A small gesture. But it felt like everything. Like his touch had its own language and somehow I already spoke it. I wondered if he could feel what was happening to me. The way my breath had shortened. How every inch of me was suddenly aware of my skin, the air, him. I had been so careful with myself lately, so distant, smiling when it was expected, retreating when it wasn't safe. But now I was wide open, and not because he asked for it, because I wanted to be. The way he looked at me then, not with hunger, but with something slower, deeper, it made my throat tighten. Like he was seeing the exact moment my guard slipped and chose to hold it gently instead of rushing in. He leaned a little closer. Not enough to kiss me. Just enough that I could feel the warmth of his breath near my cheek. Not touching, but so close it burned. And still he didn't move further. He was letting me decide. And I was starting to realize I didn't want to be careful anymore. I don't remember shifting toward him. I just remember suddenly being closer. My knee brushed his. His breath caught. And mine did too. I kept thinking, this is the moment. The one I could rewind later, study like a photograph, searching for the exact second when want overtook fear. But in the moment it didn't feel like a decision. Felt like gravity. His face was inches from mine now. I could see the way his eyes darkened, not with lust, but with something far more dangerous, restraint. He wanted me, yes. But he wasn't reaching for me. Not yet. He was waiting to be wanted back. And I did. God, I did. I turned my face just slightly, and the tip of my nose grazed his. His hand, still holding mine, tightened gently, like his body had flinched without permission. A silent intake of need. I whispered, "This probably isn't a good idea." It wasn't brave. It was honest. Because some small part of me still clung to the rules I'd built around my heart, the ones that kept me safe. He didn't say anything at first. Then, so quietly I almost missed it, he said, "Tell me to stop." And I couldn't. I tried to find the words, to summon some sense of logic or timing, or loyalty to the person I was supposed to be before tonight. But all I could feel was the burn where his hand met mine. All I could hear was my own heartbeat pounding in my ears like a countdown. He leaned in, slower than anything I've ever witnessed, like he was giving me all the time in the world to change my mind. But I didn't move, because even though I was afraid, I was more afraid of walking away and never knowing what it would feel like. To be chosen like this, touched like this, wanted not for show, not for a night, but in that deeper, quieter way that makes your soul sit up and listen. And then finally, our lips met. Not rushed, not hungry, just real. Like we were both letting go of something we hadn't realized we'd been holding on to. There was no chaos in it. No reckless fumbling, no heat thrown carelessly between mouths. Just stillness. Like the world had folded into that moment, and all it could hold was us. His lips moved against mine with a kind of care I wasn't ready for. Like he was afraid I might vanish if he kissed me too hard. And maybe he was right. Because I was barely holding myself together. I wasn't used to this. This kind of intimacy that didn't demand, didn't push. That asked, "Are you sure? Are you still sure?" And I was. With every second, I was more sure than I'd been of anything in a long, long time. His free hand came up slowly, fingers brushing along the line of my jaw. My skin prickled, and I swear I stopped breathing the second his thumb touched the corner of my mouth. He pulled back just an inch, eyes searching mine again as if to say, "You can still stop this." But I didn't want to. So I leaned in. I kissed him this time. Not because I was swept up, but because I meant it. His hands found the sides of my face now, and everything softened. My chest, my jaw, my fear. It all melted under the weight of how gently he was holding me. The kiss deepened, not faster, just fuller. Like we were exploring each breath, learning each hesitation. I could feel his heartbeat through the hand still linked in mine. Steady, strong, real. And when we paused, lips barely parted, foreheads almost touching. He whispered something I didn't expect. "I've wanted to do that since the first day I saw you." My breath caught, not because of the words but because of the way he said them. Quiet, uncertain, like a secret that had lived in the back of his throat for too long. I looked at him, really looked, and something inside me broke. In the most beautiful, terrifying way. After that, we didn't speak for a while. We just sat there, still holding hands, still tangled in that invisible thread between our breaths, our hearts, our silence. Everything around us blurred into something distant. The soft chirp of crickets, the creak of old wood beneath us, the slow lapping of water against the dock. I became aware of the way my body leaned into his, how natural it felt, like I was always meant to fit there. He shifted again, only slightly, and I followed without thinking, resting my head against his shoulder. His arm moved behind me slowly, curling around my back. Protective. Careful. But also claiming something. Not a possession. Promise. I closed my eyes. There was no fear now, just a deep ache. Not of pain but of release. Like something inside me had finally unclenched after being held too tight for too long. His fingers traced light patterns along my spine. So slowly it felt like time itself was being rewritten. Every stroke unspooling tension I didn't know I was carrying. I could feel him breathe against the top of my head. The rise and fall of his chest, a rhythm I wanted to memorize. And then, without a word, I turned to face him again. The porch light was behind him, casting soft shadows across his face. His eyes were steady on mine, like he was trying to read something in me. Something he didn't want to miss. I reached up, touched his cheek. My fingers trembled. Not because I was scared of him, but because I wasn't. Not even a little. And that somehow felt more dangerous than anything else. He leaned into my touch. And I kissed him again. This time slower. Deeper. Like we were tasting the words we hadn't spoken yet. Like we knew that whatever line had existed before, it was behind us now. The night didn't feel dark anymore. Felt like it was holding us. Wrapping us in some quiet magic only we were allowed to feel. And I let it. Somewhere in the distance someone laughed. A reminder that the world still existed beyond this porch, this night, this moment. But it didn't matter. Nothing outside of him did. His lips found mine again, softer this time. Almost reverent. Like he was memorizing the shape of my mouth, the sound of my breath catching in my throat. And I let myself fall. Not all at once. Not dramatically. Just piece by piece. Each kiss peeling something back. Each brush of his fingertips along my shoulder pulling me closer to the version of myself I forgot I could be. Open, unguarded, wanted. His hands weren't hurried. They moved like he had all the time in the world to learn me. One resting at my waist, the other gently tangled in my hair. His thumb grazing behind my ear in a way that made my knees forget their strength. I pressed my forehead to his, our noses touching, both of us breathless but not rushing. There was power in the slowness. In the way we held eye contact between kisses. In the way he smiled against my mouth like he couldn't believe this was real. Like I was the surprise he never saw coming. He whispered my name once. And somehow it sounded different in his voice. Like a prayer. Or a promise. I ran my fingers along his chest, feeling the quiet tension in him. The restraint, the reverence. The way he wanted more but didn't take it. And that made me want him even more. Not just his touch but his patience. His gentleness. His depth. I had known lust before. But this was something else. This was someone looking at me like I mattered even if the night ended right here. Like I didn't have to give him everything, just this. This moment. This closeness. This truth. And I gave it. Willingly. Because I knew in that fragile, aching silence between heartbeats he'd earned it. We stayed out there long after the stars had climbed above the trees. I didn't want to go back inside. I didn't want to return to the laughter, the questions, the version of me that wasn't allowed to feel this much. Not yet. Here, in this hush between breaths, I was allowed to exist differently. He didn't ask me for anything more. He didn't try to lead us somewhere else. He just kept his arm around me, his thumb tracing slow lines across the back of my hand like he was grounding both of us. At one point I looked at him, really looked. And I saw it all in his face. The want. The conflict. The ache of knowing this couldn't be something simple. Because life wasn't simple. Because I wasn't free. Because he wasn't supposed to be mine. And yet that night he was. For those few stolen hours we belonged to no one but the moment. We talked in whispers. About nothing. About everything. I told him things I hadn't said out loud in years. He listened like every word mattered. Like I mattered. And somewhere in the quiet, I laid my head against his chest and just breathed. Not to move forward. Not to define anything. Just to feel. Just to let myself be held. When it was time to leave, when the porch light flickered and the world gently asked us to return, he kissed my forehead. Slow. Firm. Like a seal pressed to the memory. We didn't make promises. We didn't need to. Because that night wasn't about what would come next. It was about surrendering to the one moment we didn't fight. The one moment we allowed ourselves to feel everything. And sometimes that's enough. Sometimes a hand taken and not released is all it takes to change you. He took my hand, and I let him. And I'll never forget how it felt to finally stop running.